Hello and welcome to Banking Transformed, the top podcast in retail banking. I'm your host, Jim Maroos, owner and CEO of the Digital Bank Report and co-publisher of the Financial Brand. Advancements in digital banking technologies like mobile apps, chatbots, and digital wallets allow banks to provide always-on, personalized engagement across an entire customer lifecycle. Done well, financial institutions can increase early engagement and activation at speed, reducing contact outreach and increasing revenues. Despite these advancements, though, challenges remain. Regulatory constraints, data privacy concerns, and technical complexities pose hurdles in fully realizing the potential of personalized banking. As a result, many financial institutions are building third-party collaborations to drive early personalization success. We have Jason Davies, Vice President of Product, Solutions, and Customer Delivery at Flybits on the Banking Transformed podcast. We explore the opportunities and challenges faced by card issuers and really all retail bankers as we strive to enhance the card member's journey through personalized engagement. Digital banking transformation must reimagine the banking experience, placing customers at the center and delivering convenience, personalization, security, and back office efficiency that will enrich the customer interactions along the entire customer journey. So Jason, welcome to the show. Could you introduce yourself and give our listeners a little quick look at your extensive financial background, but also describe how Flybits works on behalf of financial institutions in the credit card area and beyond?
Absolutely. So, first of all, Jim, thanks for inviting me on the podcast. Thrilled to be here. Uh, I have spent the majority of my career focused on product and process innovation across multiple industries. So, any ranging from consulting to retail to CPG. But my real focus and what's won my heart is focusing really around payments and banking. And for the last 15 years, I've been working and focusing to help banks achieve their digital transformation strategies. As part of that, I've worked with many of the Canadian banks. I've worked with a lot of banks globally, specifically around payment innovation and how do they bring that to their markets and to their cardholders. Prior to Flybits, I worked at MasterCard in a variety of both domestic and global roles. I led digital payments and labs for MasterCard in Canada. And during that role, I launched their tokenization platform, which is the underlying technology of all the digital wallets
Yep.
globally. And so very exciting work. And that led me into MarTech product development with MasterCard on a global level. And then finally, I continue to work and help banks, achieve their digital transformation and personalization objectives now at Flybits. So what does Flybits do? Well, we're really have been built to help banks mobilize their data as a strategic asset to unleash the power of that data and deliver personalized, context relevant experiences and engagements, ultimately with the goal of deepening those customer relationships and building a higher level of trust with a bank's customers. And to do that, we've made it very easy for banks to launch hyper personalized experiences at scale with minimal data architecture changes, without the need of co-locating data in a data lake, and also looking at the channel execution and making channel execution and getting those insights into action in front of your consumers as easy as possible. So Flybits has built really a hyper personalization solution that operates end to end, looking at how do I bring data into my system? How do I work with that data? How do I generate insights, action those insights, and deliver that into a channel of choice?
It's interesting because we sometimes in the banking business think if we build it, they will come. And that's not, number one, that's not always the case. And number two, engagement becomes so important, certainly in the card industry as much as any, because if the customer's just using it passively, we're not getting the revenue potential that's there. We're not understanding the
Yep.
customer. And that, it's not just about the revenue now. With all the data and technology, analytics capabilities, and the need for personalized engagement that the customer wants, It's the engagement level that's really going to drive the loyalty, going to drive other services to be able to be revolve around that product. So, how has the evolution of the technology and data analytics area influenced the demand for personalized engagement in the credit card industry? And more
Mm.
importantly, what new opportunities and challenges have emerged as a result?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, Jim, for sure. And I think some of these changing expectations that consumers have from their financial institution are being driven outside of the realm of the financial industry. Those outstanding experiences that they receive from their streaming applications, Netflix or Spotify,
Yep.
perhaps now starting to receive much more personalized experiences from ride sharing, providers like Uber as well. These expectations are bleeding over into every interaction that a consumer might have with any brand, and that puts banks squarely in the center of meeting those expectations. And I think the technology is starting to get there, but certainly to build a trusted relationship with your cardholders, your banking customers, you have to prove to them now that you understand their needs and you're going to deliver content, offers, products, advice that's relevant to them, that's meaningful to them, and sort of cuts through the noise and gives them a higher value experience for interacting with you and your bank brand. And that has been very, very challenging, over the last few decades to keep up with that. But I think technology is evolving now, that it's making it easier to deliver personalization at a more refined level beyond the segment.
You know what? You brought up Uber, and just had an experience with them, and it's amazing how much you can do with what I call basic information. So
Absolutely.
I got an Uber, was going to a hotel. They know the destination, they know where I am. I was in Amsterdam at the time. While I'm in the car, I'm getting prompts as to here's some restaurants that you might be interested in around the hotel that you're going to be staying.
Yep.
But in addition, we also can deliver food to your hotel based on what you bought in the past and what you've eaten in the past, because they know that. They
Yep.
know where I am. They know what time of the night it is or day it was. They knew where I was going, where I was. They knew how I was going to pay for things. And the Uber experience overall, as you said, it became something that it didn't startle me, but the reality is I expected it. And it's
Hmm.
amazing that the financial institutions have so much data they hardly ever use where you are. They hardly
Right.
ever use what you just bought. And we just went through, Amazon Prime days and
Hmm.
the big sales and all the information that's collected. Can you share some real life examples of how some financial institutions have really developed some great personalized engagement
Hmm.
strategies?
Yeah, absolutely. And some of those examples you provided are great. And I would, take that Uber example, Jim, and say, wouldn't it be great if that actually came from your financial institution?
Because they have the
Because
same information.
they have the same information,
Yep.
and they're a trusted financial partner, to you and their customers in their life. And I would be feel it would feel very natural as a fit to, when you're traveling or you're in that neighborhood, to get recommendations from your bank around what might be relevant to you. Maybe you would enjoy this restaurant based on, customers who are like you, who have visited the city and seen that. There's nothing really now stopping a bank from getting to that level of personalization and evolving from being your bank, somewhere where you have to have a relationship with just to get, your daily life done. But they can become a much more powerful, trusted partner, right? If they're able to combine that data that they have, make generally valuable insights and deliver value to you when it matters most. And that is a huge shift that I think we're seeing now. Now, it's not an easy one, and banks are sort of all over the place, on what they're doing and how they're trying to achieve this vision of personalization. But some of the more advanced ones I've seen, we did some work with a bank in Mexico supporting a recent launch of a co-brand card with a hotelier, and they're using a combination of data, both spend data, location data, to bring that together. So when you carry that co-brand card and I happen to be in my local city, I'm getting offers, recommendations of experiences to take advantage of the local hotels, even though I'm not traveling. You know, take a spa day,
Yep.
use the pool, visit our restaurants. And these are new types of experiences, I think, that we haven't seen before and are certainly really powerful for those cardholders, right? Where I don't have to travel to get the value of this card I'm carrying. I can experience these things in my home city, and it's a great, afternoon or a day out. And that's one example of something new that we're starting to see. And, other banks, we're starting to see personalization coming in a much more refined way in terms of what product recommendations they're making. So, for example, if somebody is, we can detect somebody who is visiting numerous car dealerships. We can assume that they are now in the cycle of trying to buy a new car. And if anybody's tried to do that recently, we know how complex that can be and how
Yeah.
patient you have to be. But why wouldn't your bank be along for the ride and to support you in the journey of buying that new car as soon as possible and say, hey, are you looking for a new car? Let us help you with your financing needs. We can probably save you more than if you went through the dealership or something like that. So those are the starting examples. And I think both of those highlight that the movement now is away from just doing segment based personalization
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
you look like this person so you should get that offer. No, what I'm talking about here is detecting context in real time, matching that with an offer, an experience, content that makes sense for that person at that moment in time, and delivering it to them when they need it or when it might be the most receptive. And that's the full sail change that I think we're starting to see from technology in the industry in regards to personalization.
Well, my team knows I've used the example quite a bit when I bought my most recent car and gave all these prompts. I was doing, as everybody does, some visit to dealers, doing some test drives. Well, that gets put on your credit bureau as a hit, and you can use the
Yeah,
credit bureau information to get there. I never got anything from my financial institutions, but I got all kinds of offers and prompts from dealerships and from manufacturers. You brought up the issue of the hotelier. What's interesting is credit cards, the first thing you do when you go out of town, you're going to use a card, a debit card or a credit card. It's just
absolutely.
invariable. People are not using cash most of the time on their first purchase. It's not going to be within 20 minutes of upon landing someplace. And that's assuming they didn't use the card to buy the flight
Mm,
over in the first place, which would have been
hmm.
even better. But let's say they did. As soon as I land, yes, I mentioned the thing about Uber, but you know I'm going to be using Uber. My financial institution knows it. They can offer me similar situations. Or another example is, let's say when I'm going into a town, with open banking and APIs and all this, let's say they take Airbnb experiences, which provides you all kinds of personalized experience in wherever you are in the country or in the world. And my financial institution links me up with those and says, while you're in this city, you may want to do this. These are really unique experiences. These tools are all there because financial institutions
Absolutely.
can use location, they can use what you purchased in the past, but
Absolutely.
they're so timid. So in that sense, the personalization of the engagement relies so heavily on data.
Mm,
How do banks navigate the balance between leveraging customers' data to enhance the experience and making sure the customer realizes that they're also taking some good thoughts into data privacy and security?
yeah. It, it's a great question, and I think something that is being discussed more and more at banks and within the fintech community as well, as it should. But for me, striking that balance, Jim, between, how much data do we collect versus how much value can we deliver back to the
I
consumer?
love
And
it.
you
Yep.
have to you have to have a very good balance in that equation. And in fact, it has to favor the consumer. And the way that I look at it and the way my team and all of Flybits looks at it is really from a privacy by design principle, where we start everything from a view of how do we secure this data, but make it usable and make it powerful to deliver more value to the consumer. And I think you have to, look at it in terms of how do I balance this? And it starts at the use case. What is the use case going to deliver to this card holder or this banking customer? And what is the data attributes that I have to use to be able to execute that use case? And then you can do a look at, does the use case and the value the card holder is going to receive validate the use of those attributes? Does that work out? Does it advantage? And if it does, then I think it comes back down to privacy by design and what people have talked about. But it's critical as any bank moves into, deepening their capabilities and personalization. They also become much more transparent with their card holders and all of their customers about what data are they collecting, how are they going to use that? And what
Yeah.
can those cardholders expect to get back or their customers from the use of that data? And if everyone is clear, and then it delivers increased value to your customers, these things start to disappear because there is a fair trade of, I give you my data, you treat it securely and responsibly, and in return for that, I'm getting better offers. I'm getting better product recommendations. You're removing friction from me completing, these financial tasks. And at the end of the day, like, that's what you look for in any relationship. There's value exchange. Everyone's better off for being in this relationship. And that, keeping that mindset, I think, is at the core of this question, right? Like, what data, when, from who, what are we going to do with it, and being transparent with your cardholders and customers. This is what we're going to do with it, and this is what you're going to get.
That's
And
so key because again, you mentioned value transfer. I keep on going back to the example of Amazon. Why do we pay $130 a year for something that if you weren't a prime customer, 9/10 of that you're going to get anyway? It's because
right,
you trust them and you really like the experience. You're going to pay for the value transfer you get. And again, if you're just collecting data for the sake of collecting data, whenever anything goes wrong, you're not going to get any leeway. You're not going to get any
none,
flexibility on that. On
none.
the other hand, if when with Uber, it's going to take a lot for me to change providers of shared transit
Yep.
or shared communication or transportation.
Jim, are you ever going to ride in a taxi cab again?
Not if I can help it,
There you go.
and the problem is the few times I've had to ride in a taxi, I end up leaving the taxi without paying, going, "Oh crap!
Yeah.
I have to pay for this." But worse than that, the deeper the relationship gets, the more likely is you're going to give them flexibility, but more likely you're going to say, I'm going to be less concerned about you knowing too much about me because you've done something
Right,
with it. I always use
right.
the example of Disney, where you go on
Hmm.
to the Magic Kingdom and they have the wristbands with the personalization. And for a while there, they use those personalization wristbands to build communication with the kids. So a speaking character would come up to the kid, use the kid's name,
Mm.
and introduce and all of a sudden the parent would go, "What just happened here? This is not
Hmm.
good. Why do they know the name?" And then all of a sudden they see the kids react and they go, "Oh, I love this. I love the personalization." Those are the dynamics, and
Yep.
it's again, if you get the value in return, and Disney's a great example again because they know as a family where you're going to probably go first, what you're going to want to do, how you're going to want to save time. They know everything about you based on
They
just the
do.
construction of your family. So this all takes a lot of intelligence beyond just data.
Yep.
What role does artificial intelligence and machine learning play in enabling this highly effective personalized engagement? I'm going to keep on going to the word engagement because it's more than just personalization and
It is.
experiences. How does
You're
Flybits
absolutely right.
use these technologies to deliver more tailored solutions?
Yeah, again, it's a great question, Jim, and I think it's certainly a hot topic of conversation right now. Like, what is the application of AI and ML, not only in this industry but everywhere else, and will the horrible predictions that AI will take over come true, or will it just be an assistance and a tool? But I think, in terms of the way AI is going to happen, you're going to see it play an increasingly important role in a couple of areas, particularly in the data analytics and the generation of new insights, right? There's just so much more data now to comb through. And, frankly, the machine is just better at that and uncovering these valuable insights. The second area I think is going to be related to content customization. So once you are personalized to somebody who might be targeted or eligible for some sort of experience, the way the content is delivered to you might also be customized, right? Imagery might be customized to look a little more like you and what you're experiencing in your lifestyle. The tone of the copy might be slightly different. And then I think the final area, which is going to be huge, is in process optimization within marketing within financial institutions, right? I think, Jim, you have a history in marketing, and you knew the frustration of, you've identified a market opportunity, it's there, you can calculate what you think the revenue opportunity might be, and then you start going down to build your campaign to capture that opportunity, and the processes get in your way, and by the time you've got it out in the market, it's 6 months later and everyone's moved
If you're
on,
lucky, yeah,
if you're
exactly.
lucky.
Yeah, right.
And I think the speed at which the world is changing just denotes that you're going to need more agility in your marketing processes, powered by AI. Right? Look in the recent history of how many things have changed and had a material impact on consumers' needs. Right? We had the pandemic. We've got instability in Europe. We've got massive weather events happening almost daily. And it's not, you can't react to those 6 months from now. So I think it's having and utilizing artificial intelligence and leveraging these technologies to be able to react and deliver meaningful experiences and recommendation content to customers when they need it most. And about that, and AI is at the central of that. So how we're starting this journey for us at Flybits is, we're actually solving a very old problem for marketers, where it's reach versus impact in their campaigns or their experiences. And we have built a product that we call Smart Targeting, that actually allows marketers to model out those exchanges. So if I want to see a 20% engagement rate, which is something we typically achieve when using Flybits with an audience, you can start to model. Well, if I wanted 20% engagement, I should reach out to these 10,000 people. But if I'm willing to take a 15% engagement rate, I could reach out to 100,000 people and broaden the scope, and manage my promotional budgets more effectively. So that's what we're using machine learning for, to help make those recommendations to marketers today about how to optimize the reach versus engagement calculations in their promotional experiences that they put onto Flybits. How we do that? We do it by using like campaigns previously and their performance, and then the machine can make optimization recommendations to the marketer. But the interesting thing is, it actually shows and lists the attributes that were changed that have the largest impact on the reach versus engagement. And it's an interesting experiment, because all good marketers, right? We all have hunches and we have hypotheses about who we should target and how. This is a very powerful tool to sort of remove perhaps some of those biases, and show, actually, it's not location, or maybe it's not age. It's how much that they actually have on a monthly basis in their savings account that drives the most engagement. So it's a way to monitor, uncover these insights, and then reapply those to become much more effective in personalizing and communicating with your cardholders or customers.
What's interesting is, as I mentioned before we got on the air, your company was one of my first guests ever. I think
Mm,
you might have been the fifth podcast, but of people that we reached out and said, we'd like to interview you, as opposed to some interviews we did prior to actually going live with the podcast where we did it at the Financial Brand Forum.
mm,
One of the reasons why I wanted to do the interview was you were not just a data company, you were not just a marketing company,
no.
but you were a specialized firm that brought these two together. So you came to the marketplace. You have a broad experience with financial institutions, so you can always track me versus others like me, as well as me against myself. You come to speed to market very quickly with ideas.
Mm,
You take the data and insights that are out there, and you know the marketing side. So it's not just doing analytics and saying, okay, you got to go the final mile. You help the organizations you partner with that final mile. Which, on
correct.
the people that listen to the podcast, there is nobody. I can already know the numbers. There is nobody that is sitting there without the primary problem they're having right now. Not enough time to find a partner that can actually take the ball and run it down the field. My ongoing analogy with this, and do it in a way that looks at the way to market the consumer, to do what you need to accomplish in the most compact and ROI, driven
Yep.
way, but with
Yep.
this sensibility that says, at the end of the day, the customer's got to be treated right. They've got to have the trust in the organization. You have to bring the trust to the financial institution. When we're talking about trust,
Mm,
it's now more critical than ever. We've had a lot of disruption in the financial service industry as of late. And so people are have their ear out to say, can I trust my financial institution?
yep.
And since it's so important, it is my belief, and I'd like to know your perspective on this, that if I do really well with customized engagement, the consumer trusts me more because you're showing an empathy to what my life's like. So you talk about
Yes.
personalization across the life cycle. The more you show that you know me, understand me, and are going to reward me, the more trust I'm going to have in you. Because I'm going to
Hmm.
say, you know what? You're looking out for me. How do you accomplish this at Flybits?
Yeah, it's a very, very difficult task to accomplish as a bank. And we took a look at Flybits and said, well, what are the limiting factors to stopping a bank from actually achieving this? Because from the outside in, it looks like they have everything that they would need to be able to deliver these great experiences, these great personalized experiences. But I think, what a bank deals with is a matter of legacy and technology. And ultimately, they have to, design a system and have operations that look at how do we secure everything for our customers as well. And that's what they should be doing. That's table stakes. And that's why I think uh, particularly here in Canada, there's still a lot of trust in banks that they will secure my data, they will secure my money, and they will always be a stable institution that I can trust on financial matters. What Flybits has done is to look at each piece of the personalization puzzle and solve for that for a bank. So the first thing, and we've talked a lot about this so far, Jim, but it's the most important one is data. What data do I bring to these personalized experiences? And unfortunately, for a bank, as they've grown up, often they've created these data silos that are very rich in data, but they can't talk to one another.
Yep.
And there's nothing that's going to give a bank CTO sleepless nights when somebody says, I think we really need to create a data lake to put all of these things
Yeah.
together. And I'm sure there's some of your listeners who are leaning back in their chair now, going, "Oh, not the data lake." But we've solved for that, and the way that we do that is we're able to reach into these individual data repositories and pull out the necessary attributes without requiring the bank to change any of their data architecture, any of their data schema. We're able to move that data to our platform with minimal intervention on that. The second puzzle is, well, now that the data is there, is it usable? Can I use it? Can I create a segment out of it? Can I get an insight out of it? And that's where our design platform comes in, which we call Experience Studio. So that raw data is then transformed and made usable to a marketer. So instead of having to go to your data analytics team and say, can you create an audience for me? And they come back 3 months later and you say, well, that's almost the audience I wanted. Can you do a few more things? And 6 months later. What we allow for is that marketer through no code interfaces, drag and drop menus to start selecting and combining data attributes to create segments. So they can create segments on the fly. An example is I want to target all of my gold card holders who have points balances above 10,000 points, who haven't redeemed in the last 6 months, and have traveled in the last year. I just created that segment. We can do that if the data is available on the platform. You can do that as fast as I can talk. Then you can, in that same experience design platform, start to delve into building an engagement rule or a context rule. When should I serve this content to this
Right.
segment that I've defined? And there you could use historical attributes like spend data, but you can also combine it with real time data attributes such as location, battery level from your device, your most recent transaction, the last minute, can all be used as contextual signals to denote Jim is in a context where he needs to receive this information. And then the final piece is being able to design content, match that content to the context, and deliver it in a timely manner in the channel. And we do that through a set of SDKs that we call concierge that allows a bank to implement this personalized dynamic feed of content into whatever channel they choose, and it's always there, it's always refreshed, and it starts to become a way for their customers to have a reason to come back and interact with the brand. They get offers, they get recommendations, they get informational updates. All of this goes to building, and it's a very flexible platform, and it's built for experimentation in campaigns. So having these three capabilities in one platform really solves all of these sort of data silo needs and dependencies on other capabilities like analytics. It combines it all into an end-to-end platform that allows you to bring data in, expose that data in a usable format for your marketing, your channels teams, create content or import content, put all of that together into an experience, turn it on, and then that experience is there and it's listening for those right contextual signals, and as soon as you need it, it's delivered onto your channel. That is a powerful
Yeah.
scalable
Yeah.
personalization platform, and that's what we've built.
And what's interesting is, let's say I'm a company that a financial institution that says, one of the big drawbacks when a financial institution wants to do something like this, they go, "But I got to wait for my dad to be okay. My dad is
Yeah,
all over the place. It's not this, not that." The reality is that's what you do for them. You don't change their
correct.
platform, but you
Nope.
can take the data in whatever format they have, and even I'm going to say as dirty as it can be. And the reality is you help clean that up. But the reality is then you can take it to market. You can do
Correct.
this very efficiently and very quickly because you're putting it into a system that's already been tested.
Yep.
In addition, I say, geez, you know what? I don't have any budget right now. I can only do a small program. From my understanding, what you just said, you can customize the scale of whatever I want to do based on my
Hmm.
needs, but also based on your experiences with other financial institutions. So if I say, I have a very dormant portfolio right now, how do I make it better? You
Yep.
have the experience to say, here's the data I need, here's how I'm going to use it, here's what I'm going to put out. And the biggest part of this, from again, my understanding of what you said, is you can then get them the final mile. You can tell them how to do it and
Hmm.
make it be actionable. This is
Absolutely.
so important in today's marketplace because people are saying, how can I get a quick ROI to get a use case to then build a bigger relationship over
Yep.
time? So
No,
from
absolutely, Jim.
that conversation, is there, if I'm a smaller organization, can you help me or do you only work with big firms?
No, I think Flybits is a perfect sort of fit for those regional players, the credit unions,
Yeah.
who are looking to compete in this space. And it makes so much sense that these smaller regional banks, a credit union, would be masterful in this because their whole brand has grown up around being a more personable, source of interaction, being more of an advisor, a trusted partner in your financial sort of life.
Yeah.
Um, I remember, my father banked at a credit union, and walking into the branch, and the tellers not only knew him by first name, they knew me and my sister by our first names as well.
Yeah.
And it's that kind of knowledge which was really impressive. And you just don't get that at big banks. And times have changed, but I think Flybits can help bring back that level of personalization to a credit union without having them invest the millions of dollars to re-architect their data system, have to bring in new partners. All of that complexity, I think, has been what's made up the roadblocks of allowing these smaller institutions to embark on this personalized hyper personalization journey. And as you said, Flybits, we're looking and focusing on solving that for them, where they can take this platform that we've built, this end-to-end, sort of data and design platform, and then channel capability as well, and very quickly build a very impressive personalization program for their customers, for their card holders, whatever it might be. I mean, looking at what it takes, we can complete an integration to a bank in as little as 3 months. More
Wow.
likely, it's four to
Wow. Yeah.
six.
Yep.
Um, and it's not disrupting, as I said, their data environments. It's really down to us working with them to understand what data they have, bring that in, working with them to understand what is the personalization strategy and experiences they wanted to deploy, and teaching them and helping them to design, deploy, and optimize those on the platform. And they're ready, and they can have a capability that would rival any personalization program that's been built by the major global banks. Whether
Yep.
that's
Yep.
Citi or B of A or whoever it is,
Right.
they're now in that game.
Well, it's important too because one thing I remember from 2.5, 3 years back right now is that you don't sell a product that's here's what I have. You either buy it or don't buy it. You're
Mm,
customizing it in each single case based on what the financial institution's needs are, which is very important today because if I have to buy something big and I'm either in or out, most of the time I'm gonna be out. I don't have the budget, I
mm,
don't have the time. I know I'm gonna get in the way. In building these customized solutions that are scalable and
mhm.
very quick, you mentioned about the time involved.
Yep.
When you work with financial institutions and the financial institutions all gung ho, they go, let's go, let's do it. I have this problem, you know what it is. What gets in the way of being able to implement it the way both the financial institution and Flybits envisions it? What is the most likely scenario that
Mm.
creates challenges?
It it comes down to, I think, a few things. One, that often the banks have not set a formalized goal or strategy for personalization. I think
They
in some
want
cases
personalization.
it's
That's what they say. I want
that's what
personalization.
they want.
The reality
That's what
is,
they want
what is your problem I'm
to
trying to
do what?
solve? Yeah,
Yeah, to
exactly. Yep.
personalization to
Yep.
do what?
Yep.
And I think sometimes that takes a while for us to sort of work through with them and come to those initial starting points. And we've realized this, and one of the solves that we did, we've created specialized experience modules that a bank can take and as a starting
Oh,
point, and
wow.
they
That's
just
nice.
customize them.
Yep.
Our first one, we have built it for the cards industry, and it is a fully personalized life cycle management capability. So taking a card holder from acquisition all the way through to retention. We have built templated personalized experiences, so we can go in and we can say, if you want to improve your overall card holder life cycle with personalization, here's how you would do it to start. Here's the data sets that we will require, attributes. We'll figure out with you how to get those. We know you have them. If you don't have them, we can show you ways to get them from your network partner or your processing
Yep.
partner. Here's the things that your marketing department should be considering, and here's what, the light lift that your channels team will have to do in mobile development to get this into the channel or your web channel. This has been a wholesale departure, because now when we show up and we say, yes, absolutely, Flybits, we need a personalization capability and we need to launch it now. We're behind. Who are you behind? I don't know, but we're behind. Um,
I know I'm not doing well. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
I feel uncomfortable. I'm behind here. Let's catch up. But it provides them a focal point where you can say, let's start with cards. Let's improve that card life cycle. Let's prove the value of personalization to you. And then we can start thinking about this platform. It's not just about cards. We can now say,
Right.
let's put it over into your retail banking operations for loan origination. Let's, look at wealth management. That's how really the power of the platform is, that we come in, we have a recommended and structured approach to get them started, to make it easy for them, and then they grow with the platform, and we continue to work with them to say that, these experiences are performing really well, how about recommending a few others? And I think it's been that focus that's really helped us. Now I think everyone, is, they're eager for personalization. The trouble is, where do I start? And I think by giving them a
That's
starting
great.
point, it's just the recipe for success.
Well, and it's funny because you're not unusual in the field in the solution provider area that the solution you've customized but in a compartmentalized way is obviously one that you know is going to generate a great deal of success. It's going to generate
Yes.
revenue. You're not going to pick the hard to implement personalization plans as your package. So if an organization wants to say, I need to show the power of personalization. And you've got it already ready. In fact, you've implemented multiple financial institutions in one way or
Yep.
another to the point where you're going to be able to tell XYZ company, by the way, you're not implementing at the level that we've seen in the past. Oh, and by the way, we found out why. Maybe it was a
Hmm.
piece of data they weren't able to share. Maybe it's external data that you've
Hmm.
enhanced in the other cases, and they didn't buy into that concept. But overall, your potential for success is so high because you
Hmm.
wouldn't have customized this otherwise. It makes it
Correct.
so it's a win-win immediate. In fact, it's a win-win-win, but it's the consumer wins. They're
Absolutely.
getting they're getting communication, they're getting engagement tools, they're getting the attention that we often forget once we've opened an account. That
Hmm.
that dead silence once you open the account, you go, geez, I kind of thought they want to talk to me a little bit more than this. And the
Yeah.
longer you take from the time of opening a relationship to the time of using the relationship, it becomes less and less likely that you're going to become the primary
It,
relationship.
no. Oh, absolutely. You're touching on some important points that we wanted to solve with our cards module, right? Where we look at that life cycle and we say, you're absolutely right, Jim, that one of the key measures should be time to activation. Now that's changing, right? As some banks are delivering digital sort of cards into wallets right away, and the plastic arrives 10 days later. But regardless of that, there's still that struggle, right? Where once you get that card that seemed like a good idea at the time, and now it's in your wallet a couple of weeks later and you're not using it,
It's
that's
out of your
starting
wallet.
to it's starting to generate a
Yep.
loss for that bank that's issued that
Yep.
card for you, right? So
Yep.
being able to engage early, putting them on a structured early month on books program to build a healthy spending profile to ensure that that card goes into the wallet, that's the bank's goal there. But at the same time, you can do it by also reminding the cardholder constantly of the value of that card. Why did they want that card in the first place? And if you want to maximize the value of that card, here's how you do it, and start giving them that healthy, structured spending profile that you're looking for as the product owner at the bank. Then you're right. I think then ongoing, because the Flybits platform is always listening for those contextual signals that are relevant, to your point, like I worked in the industry. I designed card value props for several banks. I designed one personally myself for an airline co-brand. And a year after, do you think I could remember if there was collision damage waiver insurance when I walked up to a car rental counter in an airport? No, I had to look it up. And being reminded of that as I walked up to the counter on my device saying, "Hey, Jason, don't forget, you've got collision damage waiver insurance. You don't have to buy." It's like, oh my goodness, you're right. Thank you, bank, for saving me a couple of dollars and allowing me to benefit from having this card.
Yep.
And there's myriad examples of that, like warranty extender coverage. You buy a TV, but you put it on that card and you double the manufacturer. These are all elements of value
Yep.
that have to be communicated on a relevant basis.
American Express does this very well, where they keep
They
on
do.
reminding you. They remind me every month that, oh, by the way, remember you get $15 off on Uber the first time you use it in a month. These type of elements. But what that does, it makes it so you go, oh, I got to use that card instead of the other one.
That's right.
It's that little decision point. And the beauty of the digital world right now, that all this data is floating around, we've got to just focus it. And the
Mhm.
fact that Flybits has built a very specific solution around the card life cycle is interesting because there's so much there. And it
There is.
also would, if I'm a marketer, a financial institution, that engagement, that experience will educate me into thinking about how I can do this in other areas of the financial institution. But there's so much to uncover there, and it's such a profitability enhancer as you go ahead. So,
Mm.
Jason, we're we're coming to the end of our podcast here, but as you look ahead, what trends do you anticipate in the realm of personalized engagement for the card member's life cycle? Well, how does Flybits preparing to stay on the forefront of all that's going on?
Yeah, the life cycle marketing and designing experiences to meet that's stage one. And it's only going to continue to advance from there, Jim. And I think the technology that Flybits is putting into market starts to open up a whole new level of marketing. And you have to start to look at it where Flybits creates the opportunity for a marketer to engage in what I would term nonlinear consumer journeys, right? A journey today is designed on a whiteboard and it says, okay, now Jason's going to do this and then he's going to do that. And then we want him to take, the next action. Where in reality, people drop in to a journey maybe at stage three and they've missed stage
Right.
one and the journey gets irrelevant. What Flybits does, and I think this is going to be the future of where you're going, is it allows for these nonlinear journeys. So you design the experiences and the touch points at each point. But because I have the ability now with Flybits to listen for contextual signals, I know where to put this person into that journey at any point in time. And because it's so flexible, I can move them back and forth through the journey, presenting them content. And that I think becomes a much
Yeah.
more valuable and realistic scenario to communicate with these cardholders, right? Where um, who knows? Like based on age, maybe I'm constantly bombarded with retirement planning and messaging, right? And although probably should, I'm not as focused on that as I should be. Meanwhile, like this highly responsible 21-year-old who's just graduating from university has already started saving for their retirement, but they're getting none of that messaging
Yeah.
just based on the segment they're in. You have to deliver the content and the engagement based on the context of the user, and that's what we're focusing on. I think that is going to be the wholesale change where we're seeing this, mapping and targeting on the segment level is just not going to be enough to move the needle. You have to now be able to go down levels to get to hyper personalization, with ultimately the goal of being one to one, always listening and always ready to insert this consumer into the right journey at the right moment in time. So that is going to be a huge change, I think, and
Yeah.
technology is moving there, and it's going to be a big change for a lot of classic marketers, right? Who are I create a calendar at the end of the year, and the customer gets, back to school stuff at this time of year, and they get retirement savings at this time of year, and they get travel here. Moving to a always on calendar where people might be all over the place at any point in time. But that's a much more interesting space.
It's going to
Yeah.
be interesting because ChatGPT, as you look at the potential there, that the creation of content based on
Mhm.
individual situations, the
Yep.
utilization, we're right now at a stage of saying data here, response here. Eventually, we're going to get to the point of saying, I want to ask certain customers questions
Yes.
that will build things even more prompted. So, hey Jim,
Yeah.
you're this old. How is your life different today than it was 5 years ago? Or you seem to have a lot of these transactions. It feels like you're still in the cash stage of life as opposed to
Right.
the
Right.
setting money aside or whatever it may be. Those
Yep.
things you don't know. And I use the example of when the governments were providing COVID relief in the form of checks. We could not identify the difference between the consumer that was taking a waiver on their mortgage payment because they couldn't eat versus
Hmm.
those that said they want to use the money for putting away in savings because they didn't have a savings
Hmm.
account. Those are very big differences, but not always driven by data. Sometimes you have to ask questions. We're going to get better at the asking of questions and the
Yes.
delivering of content beyond, oh, buy this, the next sale.
Yep.
So, Jason, so great to have you on the show. We have to do this again because as much as we covered, there's probably even more that we
I
need to cover.
I
You know,
think
I
I think there I definitely is, Jim. I mean, I think we're doing work right now in that generative AI space that you'll find fascinating.
yeah,
Um, and we're taking a different approach where we're applying generative AI to the marketer, helping the marketer design
yeah, yeah.
better campaigns.
That's what I like the most about Flybits is you became a marketer's partner as opposed to a data shop, or as
Yep.
opposed to selling a solution that's a package solution. And yes, you have a package solution, but it's more of a very composable solution that's very
Correct.
manageable as opposed to saying, here's what we sell. Thank you very much. This is what you got to buy.
Yep.
Jay, appreciate it so much, Jason. We are going to get together again and great to talk to you.
Great talking to you, Jim. Appreciate the time. Look forward to joining you again sometime soon.
Thanks for listening to Banking Transformed, the winner of 3 international awards for podcast excellence. We really appreciate the support we've received in making this endeavor a success. If you enjoy what we're doing, please take some time to show some love in the form of a review. Finally, be sure to catch my recent articles on the financial brand and the research we're doing for the Digital Banking Report. This has been a production of Evergreen Podcast. A special thank you to our senior producer, Leah Haslett, audio engineer, Chris Fafalias, and video producer, Will Pritz. I'm your host, Jim Maroos. Remember, personalization is not a one-time goal. The customer expects you to know them, understand them, and reward them across their entire customer journey.